In the previous problem, we had a lot of work to get that radius. There is a shorter way to do it. So there is if we're trying to find the diameter, for instance here, you could do what we did in the previous problem and draw yourself a radius from point C to point A and do the whole setup where you do r squared plus 12 squared equals r plus 8 squared and get that all worked out. You can see that that problem solved with all the steps here. You get 5. And then if it asks for the diameter in this problem, then you would double that 5 to get 10, which totally is fine. You can do it that way. However, there is a quicker formula. So I want to share that with you guys. This formula you like to write down. It's called tangent squared equals the outer part of the secant times the whole secant. So remember, a secant is a line that goes through the circle. So in this case here, the tangent squared would be the tangent part is the segment from the outside of the circle to that point out here. So the point that it touches the circle in one spot to the point where it meets the other line, this is your tangent. So the outer part of the secant would be this part here. And then the whole secant would be from the very edge of the outside of the circle to point B. So we can actually use this formula. I'll show you. 12 would be your tangent. So that would be 12 squared. The outer part of the secant is going to be 8. And the whole secant would be 8 plus your diameter. So we'll call that D. Now remember, the answer to this was 10. So 12 squared is equal to 8. 8 plus D. Watch how we work that out. 12 squared is 12 times 12. That's 144. 8 times 8 is 64. And then we distribute the 8 to the D. Subtract 64. 44 is 100, so it should be 80. Those cancel out. And then 80 divided by 8. Voila. Your diameter ends up being 10. So it's a little faster than doing the Pythagorean theorem, right? You do the tangent squared times the outer part of the secant times the whole secant. So the generic way to write that formula is this. I'll get rid of this for a second here. A lot of times you see it like t squared equals a parentheses a plus b. That's what that means. So a is the outer part. A plus b is the whole secant. And then that t is your tangent. Same formula, just with letters instead of words. So let's refresh again on that same problem before. You can see how it's plugged into here. The tangent is the 12 squared. The outer part is 8. 8 plus d is the whole secant. Distribute that 8, you get 64 plus 8d. Subtract the 64 from 12 squared, so 144 minus 64 is 80. Divide by 10. And as you can see, it's the same thing as before. In this past problem here, we get a radius of 5, and so your diameter would be 5 plus 5, which would be 10. But in my opinion, it's a little bit less work, a little bit fewer steps, easier to memorize, I think. So I would definitely recommend using that formula, and we're going to use that in the next problems.